This presentation this evening is being offered under the auspices of the Stephen Jaroslawski Chair in Religion and Conflict, which is an endowed chair that we have at Assumption University that does all kinds of interesting things in teaching and research and public presentations. And it's my pleasure now to call upon the holder of that chair, Dr. John Capucci, who's going to introduce tonight's speaker for us. So I introduce Dr. John Capucci.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure and privilege this evening to be with you and to introduce a wonderful guest speaker that we have. We have Sister Helena Burns from the Fraternity of St. Paul. And I'd like to give a brief biography as Daughters of St. Paul. I wanted to make sure she was paying attention. Sister Helena is a member and regional directress of the Daughters of St. Paul, an international congregation of Roman Catholic sisters founded in 1915 to communicate God's message through media. She holds a Master's of Arts in Media Literacy Education and a Bachelor's of Arts in Theology and Philosophy from St. John's University in New York. She also holds a certificate in pastoral youth ministry as well. Sister Helena has studied screenwriting at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, and also at Act One Hollywood. So we have a star in the house. Currently, Sister Helena is studying at the Theology of the Body Institute in Lima, Pennsylvania, and has written on the subject entitled He Speaks to You, which is primarily geared to young women. In addition to her academic activities, Sister Helena is working on several projects across the mediascape. She serves as a movie reviewer for Life Teen and the Catholic Channel on Sirius XM. She is also the co-producer for the 40film.com. She wrote and directed a documentary on Blessed James Alberione, who was the founder of the order to which she belongs. Sister Helena gives lectures on media literacy and theology of the body to both young people and also adults across Canada and the United States. She believes that media can be a primary tool for sharing God's love and salvation with the entire world. She is a dual citizen of Canada and the United States, and as she puts it, an international woman of mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Sister Helena Burns. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you. I'll try to, I have a very soft voice, so I'll try to project. Can you hear me back there? Good, okay. So I believe we go for about 45 minutes, and then we have Q&A. So I was given this topic of using media humanly. Hint, hint. The picture's kind of a hint. Okay. So let's begin with a media prayer, since we're going to have a media talk. And this was written by our founder, Blessed James Alberione, who was a media priest. He lived from 1884 to 1971, loved media, loved it, loved technology, was waiting for the next big thing all the time. So together, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. We thank you, Lord God, for the unending Pentecost of your creative Holy Spirit, which enables your sons and daughters to be afire with your truth, beauty, and goodness. May the blind see, the deaf hear, and the poor receive justice through the proclamation of the good news through today's media. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I always want people to have a lot of resources, so you have 3 handouts from me on the chair, and with lots of great resources for you in media literacy and other things regarding media. If you're looking to go deeper with this subject, I did a mini-series on EWTN, and they're just half-hour segments on various aspects of media and what the church teaches about media. Did you know we have like a whole body of teaching regarding media? Yeah, so, and that's another talk. I have many, many media talks, so I was asking John, like, I want to get the right talk. Which talk should we do? And he said, I think this one. So it has discussion questions. It's great, meant to be a discussion film. There's books of prayers that our founder wrote for the media, so you can pray and intercede for the media. All of these books are available at our bookstore in Toronto, Pauline Books and Media, or you can go to daughtersofstpaul.ca. That's our website, daughtersofstpaul.ca for the books. And we have Life After Porn. There's a book for children that you read with kids to porn-proof them called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. The film on our founder, if you sign up for my texting service, which doesn't mean I'm going to text you, it just means we will get your email via text and then email you the PowerPoint, the resources digitally so you can share them. And we're going to let you watch the film for free. So it's a 90-minute, amazing documentary on the life of our founder. And it gives you his media vision, strategy, and spirituality. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel today. We live in a media-saturated culture more than ever, right? Like how many of us, we did most of our growing up years without the internet, right? Look how much stuff has developed, right? Wow, in such a short period of time. So we thought we lived in a media culture in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like we ain't seen nothing yet, right? So he gives us this incredible way to look at media, an incredible way to use media, think about media, pray for media, etc. We have books for kids, so there's actual curriculum, K through 8, putting our faith lives and our media lives together. This is for teens, and one for very small children. This is the best book for parents. It's called The Tech Talk. Just came out by a Catholic dad who's also a psychologist, and he believes there's a lot of dangers, yes, in this media world today, but we can learn to live it well. This is all the scary science. The jury is not out. The jury's in. We know now what the fact if you give a screen to a tiny little child and they spend hours and hours on it, in their growing up years, we know what it does to the brain. Not even the content, just the fact of a glowing screen and quickly moving colorful images. So, but again, there's hope. There's hope, there's hope, there's hope. The doctor who wrote this book himself was addicted to video games. So he says, I speak as a recovering addict myself, and here's how you can reset your child's brain or reset your own brain. You know how it's like you can break or make a habit in 2 weeks? Same with our media use. Actually, sadly, this book is not available in Canada, but there are many like them about reprogramming the screen addiction brain. So it's a real thing, SAS, Screen Addiction Syndrome. You can check it out, Google it. This is from our film.
Our world is increasingly a media world. We are constantly wired, plugged in, constantly communicating information, education, ideas, entertainment, inspiration, constantly socializing through the media. Our use of media technology is changing our lifestyles, our relationships, our family life. Our use of media technology is altering our bodies, influencing our minds, wills, and hearts. Our media use is changing us as human beings. But what does it mean to be human? How can we use media in a way that is truly human and never dehumanizing? And where is God in all this? Doesn't a profoundly media-oriented world need a profound media spirituality? One man had an answer. One man had a plan. One man had a vision. He was a priest of Jesus Christ. Father James Alberione. This is his story.
No, it's not his story. You have to give me your email and you will get his story. Okay, so here's mediaapostle.com. You can go to that website and learn more about him. And here's how you get all the goodies. So you text me your email address. Just your email address. No other words. Not, welcome to Windsor, sister. Thank you. We had great talk. Can you please send me? Just we know who you are and what you want, okay? Don't text me your phone number. Once you text me, I have your phone number, and we're not going to text it to you. We're going to email you, okay? Just your email address. No other words. What if Jesus was standing there and he said, if you can follow these directions, you get into heaven? I'm sorry. Okay, so just your email address to this number. Do it within 24 hours. If you don't do it within 24 hours, it doesn't work. Okay? Anyone need more time with it? I'll put it up at the end too in case you don't have a pen, you don't have a phone, you don't have anything, and you really want to get the stuff. Okay. All right. So this is your spa moment. This is our spa moment, okay? How many people think that we've had this media long enough, all the new digital, we call it new media, it's not so new anymore, all the new digital media long enough that we need to take a deep breath and step back and consider how we're using it? How many people think it's about time? See, when all this stuff came out, nobody taught us how to use it. It just came out and we started using it 24/7, any old way, right? Beeping in church and whatever the heck, right? Anywhere, everywhere while we're driving. Nobody said, oh, here's how you use it as a good Catholic. Here's how you use it as a good, decent human being, and here's how to be safe with it. Nobody told us anything. We just started using it. So we have some of the science, some of the scary science on the negative side, but there's a lot of positives, too, about the media. And Father Alberione was extremely positive. He wanted us to use it, but he wanted us to use it well. And it's up to us. We choose how we use, right? I talk to young people all the time, and I tell them, you know, we love to be free. We really prize that, right? I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. Well, why are we acting not free with our media sometimes, or the way we choose to use it? We don't have to use it the way anybody else uses it, right? We can make our own choices. Or we can stop. If we've been choosing to use it a certain way and we're like, whoa, too much, right? Or I'll tell young people, if you're using media, social media in particular, and it's making you anxious and depressed, change it up. Do something else, right? Obviously, this is not working. We need to do something else. Okay. So I want to ask, are you happy with the way you use your media? Whether that's Netflix or your phone or, I hope nobody has Alexa here. I tell the kids, plug her in. No, don't plug her, unplug her. Fill up the kitchen sink, and then, oops, blub, 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 blub. Bye, Alexa. It's not a person, it's a machine. We don't need another interruption to family life, right? Make your own dang grocery list, okay? No, none of her creepy cousins either. Google Voice, Echo. Okay. So, are you happy with the way you use media? Are you 100% happy? Maybe you wish you used it more. Maybe you're like, I've been resisting, and I'm really out of the loop now. Now I barely know how to use a computer or whatever you're resisting. Maybe you need to make a resolution to use it more, to learn more about it, or to choose one form of social media that you're going to get more proficient at. Here's the other question. Do the people you live with, are they happy with your media use? Or are they always complaining? Mom's always on her phone. Mom, put it away. It's not just the kids, right? It's not just the way the kids use the media, right? They squeal. They snitch. They tell me how their parents are using it, too. Or sometimes they say, well, I asked if we could not bring our devices to the table, but my parents bring them. You know? Okay, so 2 different ratings. Am I happy with the way I use media? Are the people around me happy with the way I use media? And am I happy with my colleagues, my friends, my family, my children, my parents? Am I happy with the way they use media? So there's kind of a certain stress with media, isn't there? We're all a little bit stressed out over our media use. It causes us some stress. So we need a plan and a strategy. Because if we don't have a plan or a strategy with regard to our media, we're going to fall into extremes. 2 extremes. One is by default, we're going to use it 24/7 with not a lot of thought or intentionality. And the other is we're going to demonize it. It's evil, it's bad, it's all horrible, it's wicked. And even though I'm using it, I would rather run to the hills and unplug everything and go off the grid. I'm using it, but I hate it. Or I refuse to use it, right? So 2 extremes. default position is I just use it any old way, 24/7, or I demonize it, and it's all bad. So even though a lot of my talk tonight is going to be critical in the sense of critiquing media use, please don't think I'm going negative on media. Because, how could I? I'm a daughter of St. Paul. Our one mission is to evangelize with media. That's all we've ever done since 1915, and all the different forms of media. And we are daughters of Father Alberione as well, who loved media and technology. We call it techno-panic in the media literacy community, people who just freak out over media, and which I think, we should be serious about media, and we should acknowledge the real downside, but then we should also get serious about a plan and stick to it. So one of my sisters also teaches media literacy like I do, and she said to me, "Oh, I'm more positive about media than you are." And I thought about it, and I thought, no, I'm positive. I don't see us using media in a really positive way. I think we can do better. How many people think we can do better? Right? Okay. And the name of this talk is Using It Humanly. And we're going to talk about what that means, because that means good. If we're going to use it humanly, I mean the best of what it means to be human. We're going to use it well, if we use it humanly. I use all this new media, and I don't get it perfectly either. So I tell the young people, I go to confession about my media use. And they're like, what? And I start naming all kinds of, maybe not sins, some of them are sins, but like really poor choices. Sometimes I'm just fooling around with media, and I have a duty to do. I have people that need me, and I'm just messing around and entertaining myself or whatever. Okay, so we're daughters of St. Paul. We believe if St. Paul were alive today, he would be using all the latest forms of media to spread the gospel and to enrich himself too, right? Enrich his own life. And of course, Jesus was taking the first selfie in history right there. I have no idea what that thing is. And a lot of you, how many people would say that you use media professionally as well? It's a big part of your professional life. You have more and more and more. Father, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So sometimes those lines get blurred, our personal life and our ministry life or our work life, and we don't know where to call the boundaries, right? And sometimes also they can enrich each other, our ministry life and our personal life, but sometimes one bleeds into the other where it really shouldn't. So we have to be clear about that as well. And as a nun, I'm always repping something, right? So I'm repping the Daughters of St. Paul. I'm repping nuns the world over. I am repping the Holy Roman Mother, the Catholic Apostolic Church at all moments. I mean, I can't run, I can't hide, right? I just put a car magnet on, He is risen, with the cross, and now I have to drive like a Christian, right? It's terrible. So we're always representing something, and the way we use media really says a lot. We're going to talk about that. So, for example, there's even some younger teachers in the Catholic schools who are not using media very well in their private lives, and then their students see this online, right, on their teacher's Facebook page or something. People can lose their jobs over these things, right? There was a Catholic university in Canada here where the students they used their school's Snapchat frame and were doing horrible things representing Saint so-and-so. I'm not going to say who it is. Saint so-and-so school, So we have to understand media is so public. We're always in the public eye now with media. And I've been busted a few times by my younger sisters. They squeal to my superiors. Sister Helena's being undignified online again. Because of my sense of humor. I have the sense of humor of an 8-year-old boy. If an 8-year-old boy thinks it's funny, I think it's funny. Gross out humor. Maybe some bodily noises or something, I don't know. Or sharing stuff that goes on in the convent that I probably shouldn't, like funny stuff that happens. Okay. So maybe if we get a grip on our personal lives, start with our personal lives, not worry so much about our ministry or our public lives or our professional lives on media, if we can get our act together personally, that can inform the boundaries and what we do professionally as well. And in some kind of agreement with the people around us, because the thing about social media is it's social. Media is social. We can't do it in a vacuum, right? Because if we're the only one putting our phones away at a certain moment and nobody else is, it doesn't really work, right? And we wind up alone. So we've got to have those talks with our family and friends. And hopefully we can achieve that transparency of the saints, right? Who were the same person at all moments. But after I came up with the talk, the title of the talk, Using Media Humanly, somebody came up with Using Media Like a Saint. And I thought, oh, shoot, I wish I had thought of that title. But again, if we're being good humans, we're going to use media well. So have you heard that we're also digital Catholics? Has anyone ever heard that term? How many people use digital media? Oh, a whole lot don't. How many are Catholic who use digital media? That makes you a digital Catholic. So, how many people chose to be born into a media world? You told God, I want to be born at this time and place so that I can use digital media. Nobody, right? How many people chose to stay? You didn't run to the hills, to the desert, to the mountaintop. So how many think maybe we should learn to use it well as Catholics? Yeah. It's also the term digital citizens. So the stats are, if we teach our young people that there are rights and responsibilities with using media, they respond very well. And also realizing it's not a right, like they don't have a right to a phone. It's a great responsibility, because with great power comes great responsibility, right? Also, we're digital disciples. If we want to honor and glorify God and follow Him in everything we do, does that include media? Absolutely. It has become the stuff of our lives. How many hours a day do we spend with media? This kid said too many. They think about, it depends, but 6 to 8 hours a day we're using media. Whether that's watching television, listening to the radio, multitasking with media, that counts as 2 screens. If you're using your phone and you're watching something or using the computer. So if it's the stuff of our lives, it's not just a God-free zone or a free-for-all. We have to glorify the Lord and be disciples, even in our use of media. I was out in Calgary doing a Lenten mission at a church out there, and Father wanted the name of the mission to be Becoming Digital Missionaries. And I said, Father, can't we just do digital Catholics, like teach people how to be good digital Catholics? And he said, no, sister. He said, we can't keep all this good stuff to ourselves, the church stuff. He said, we have to be inviting people to God. We have to be inviting people to church. We have to be sharing what we know of our Lord with people, not waiting till we get it perfectly or whatever. So he really changed my thinking. And he's a big baseball fan, so he uses a lot of baseball metaphors. And Father said, the goal of heaven is the same as the goal of baseball, to get as many home as possible. So, wow, he just opened up my mind as to ways we can really make sure that we're representing God. And I get tremendous advice from young people. So they tell me what their problems are. They're the ones getting cyberbullied, right? They're the ones having all the main issues with the media. We think they love it. They do, but they're also struggling. And when you let them talk about it, you open up the floor and you give them the space to talk about the problems they're having. And then you kind of turn it around and say, well, can you come up with some solutions and strategies? And they do it together, and then they post, what they came up with. So I always get great advice from young people. So what we're talking about with the use of media goes way beyond simple etiquette. This is, like the clip said from the movie, it's changing us as humans. It's changing our humanity, the way we think, the way our brains are wired. That's why, they say for under 2 years old, no screen time. The American Pediatric Association has been saying that for years. No TV. No screens, because their little brains are being formed. And that's why the ADD just sets in, because their little eyes have been used to just quickly moving things and loud noises, and their brains are wired that way, needing constant stimulation. So this is not about etiquette and being polite and just sort of meting out our time and measuring our time on media, but making sure we preserve our humanity. Don't lose your humanity to these devices of our own making, to these machines. So, am I using media like a true and full human? Or like a robotic human? Or an addicted human? Or a virtual human? Or a rude human? Or an obsessed human? Or an isolated human? Or a distracted human? Or a numbed human? Or an interrupted, constantly interrupted human? So how many people here still feel hurt when you're talking with someone and they suddenly pull out their phone? Either to answer a phone call, to make a phone call, to just check something, it buzzed, and you're having a face-to-face conversation. How many people still feel hurt? You know? And I'll tell you something, our young people don't raise their hands. They look at me and they say, "What? That's just what you do." And I'm like, "No, you're worth more than that." When you have chosen to be in somebody's presence, you've showed up face to face, you deserve all their attention, their undivided attention. So we've been messaging to young people for a long time, you're not that important. These pixels are way more interesting and entertaining than you. So I will constantly divide my attention, I'll half listen to you, because you're not worth it, right? You're not that valuable. And again, left to our own devices, the eye, the ear, the mind, the imagination will always choose the entertaining, flashy, fun stuff. Our eye is choosing, our brain is choosing if it's not disciplined, right? So this girl, after one of my talks, teenage, was at Cardinal Leger High School in Toronto, and she came up and she made this hashtag, "People over pixels." And I said, she goes, "That's what you said." I said, "Well, not exactly, but can I use that?" People over pixels. Pixels are good, but they're second place. As soon as a human being is in the vicinity, away it goes, right? It has to go away. We have to message to people how important they are. So, I don't know if anyone knows Ray Kurzweil. Have you heard of him? He is the head engineer at Google. He's an older guy. He's kind of their overall visionary engineer. And he's also a transhumanist, which basically means he believes that human beings are brains in vats. We are our brain. We are the data in our brain and nothing more. And he believes someday we'll upload our brains to the cloud, and then we'll have the singularity, and we'll all be one. And so if you ask him if he believes in God, he says not yet, because that will be God, right? So he's a beautiful guy. He holds so many patents for devices for deaf people. Things that you use every day, text to speech, speech to text, he's the guy. He did it. He's from MIT. And so he's all of that school of thought that we should have the chips implanted in us, which they're already doing, right? People are choosing to have the chips implanted. Half of Sweden has done it. Why? Lazy. So you don't have to ever lose your keys. You can just get near your car, open your car door, your house door, your computer passwords are all in there. As soon as you're near the computer, everything opens up for you. Of course, the government knows where you are at every moment too. We won't talk about that. And he says when people get very upset about that, and he believes our cell phones will eventually be internal. We'll have them someplace inside of us. I don't know where, but he said, and he's right. He said people complain and they act so shocked. But he says we're already choosing to use our phones that way. If we just hold this in our hand 24/7, it's the first thing we see in the morning, it's the last thing we see at night, right? He said, well, I'm just making it hands-free for you. And he's right. I think he's right. And by extension, the way we allow our children, the way parents allow their children to use the devices willy-nilly, with very little, children don't have discernment. Children don't have willpower, right? They don't have a lot of things. And so this whole world, the whole world is here, right? It's a world unto itself, right? So extremely powerful stuff. So a dad came up to me, actually in the London diocese. Do you know the Family Catechism? Have you heard of that? It's a movement, Stratford, Ontario, London, a few other places. So they've been meeting for 20 years, and the families get together on one Saturday a month, Catholic families. They take over a Catholic school. The teens and parents learn together in the gym, and the kids go into the classrooms by age, the little kids. And they learn on a topic. Isn't that cool? Like, everybody learns the same topic. So I was coming in and doing different media stuff. And this dad came up to me and he said, "Sister, the Catholic Church lost the sexual revolution. I'm afraid we're going to lose the digital revolution too." And I thought, but we have theology of the body. That's the answer to the sexual revolution. Got that down pat. And we have media literacy, and we have Father Alberione's vision for media. So, and we can, I always tell parents, just make it up. Just have some guidelines. I don't care what they are, but have guidelines. Every family is different anyway, right? Just have some media guidelines based on what you think is important and what you value. Another dad came up to me. I was at a homeschool conference in Virginia, and he was an MD, and he looked so sad, and he said to me, "Sister, I just read a book called Inevitable." Like, we're all going to become cyborgs. There's just no, resistance is futile, and, you know, there's no hope. We don't stand a chance. And I looked at him, and I did the, we're free. We're free. We can do whatever we want. We don't have to bow down to anything or anyone or do something we don't want to do, or we can change it up. But he was so discouraged. I felt really bad. But again, we have to do this. This more than anything is something we have to do together, right? Even social media apart, even if we're not on social media, we use these devices in our homes as a couple, as a family, right? In our businesses, our schools, our churches. I hope someday we will have TFZs, not to be confused with TMZ, TFZs in our churches, and maybe our schools too, tech-free zones. So we're going to have this particular church in Calgary that I was at. Oh, I'll name it. St. Michael's in Calgary. It's the largest church in Calgary. Super high-tech, brand new church. They very discreetly record all the homilies and put them on YouTube, which I think is a great idea, personally. Because I hear so many good homilies, I don't know about you, and you want to share them. You're like, that answered so-and-so's question. I want to share it. But it's gone. Poof, into the air and gone. So, and I think people underestimate how much our young people share podcasts and YouTubes. They will share them around. Religious ones, yes, religious ones. Talking head, yes, talking head. They will do even a talking head. So, anywho, it was a super high-tech church. And I said to Father, this is the digital missionaries priest, I said, "Father, wouldn't it be cool if, like," and they have a great social media presence, and they have graphic designers advertising things. And I said, "Wouldn't it be great if we have that outreach, but then when you come to church, people are going to look at you. You know, we do the basket thing, or like, please turn your cell phones off or whatever, tech-free zone." Not every part of the church. They have like one huge campus with the actual church building and then all the other buildings all together, where people are going to look at you and listen to you and act like humans. You can come to our church and act like a human being. There's an article you should read called "I Used to Be a Human Being." It's by Andrew Sullivan. He's a British journalist. And he had gone to a tech retreat. It's where people who need to detox from all their media go. It's not religious. And they're like in silence for a month. And he's a fallen away Catholic, but he's like so obsessed with the Catholic Church. He's always talking about Catholicism. And he said, you know, you Catholics, you think you have to be more like the world. You have screens up in your churches, like with little video clips playing during Mass, during a homily, or a PowerPoint during a homily, and there's blaring music here and there. He said, you need to be something different. You need to be a retreat, a respite. You know, he said, be more like the church, not like the world. We can get all that stuff out there. He said, you should be a human place where we can go and be human and worship God, and bells and smells and stained glass windows and interaction, right? So I was at this, it's called Women of the Word in Toronto. And I love to throw out the question, what makes us human? I get the most amazing answers back. And there's a lot of ways to answer that question. And this one woman said, human interaction. And I said, oh, that's great, isn't it? This is not human interaction. This is virtual. This is distracted, fragmented interaction that is sending a message that you're not that important. You're only worth half of my attention, not all my attention. And again, you know how when you get interrupted in that conversation, don't you love when you can tell who rates more? You know, they're looking at you and then, right? Or they start laughing and they're like so excited to see whatever's on the phone, and you're like, you're kind of meh, right? You lose me. If somebody does that even once, you've lost me, because I don't know how many more times you're going to do that. I thought we were both invested in this conversation. It's hard enough to keep your train of thought, right? And it gets interrupted, like, done. We're done here. Okay. So together. I tell young people, if you can't have that conversation with your family, just maybe one of your siblings, you and one sibling, you and a friend, a circle of friends, choose about when you're going to use the devices and when you're not. Parenting the media is a whole other topic. I'm not going to do that tonight, but there's a couple who have kind of figured it out, currentcrew.tv. They have a closed Facebook group with professionals, access to professional psychologists and technologists that can help you with the technology aspects of it, currentcrew.tv. She's a teacher. He's an IT guy with a PhD in theology. So it's kind of a good combo. But they made a lot of mistakes with their kids. They were very naive, and they made a lot of mistakes handing their children iPhones, and they had to rework the whole deal. Their kids fell down dark rabbit holes, and they had to figure it out. So as Pope Francis says, while these drawbacks are real, they do not justify rejecting social media. Rather, they remind us that communications is ultimately a human rather than a technological achievement. So let's keep it human, folks. Keep it human. Now, there are 3 places. It's the Pope of the selfie, right? First Pope to ever, I think that was the first selfie he took, too. And people were so amazed that he allowed the kids to come up. And so there are 3 places that we don't need screens. What are they? 3 times and places, 3 sacred times and sacred places that we don't need screens. What are they? They all begin with M, by the way. Mass? Meals? This is a harder one. Master bedrooms. Married couples' bedrooms. I have couples come up to me and say, well, you don't even need a TV in there. You know, this is our time to focus on each other, right? And when I'm talking to teens, I say, because they're busy with you all day, you know, like, bleh. So like this is their alone time together. Keep the TV in the den, the family room, no computers or anything, put the devices away. And why do we do this? Because of the images of God that are present. So at Mass, we don't just have the image of God, we have God himself. We don't need, I go to one church and they have these waterfalls. 2 screens next to the sanctuary with waterfalls. Like, what the heck is that? Oh, we're appreciating God's nature. That is not nature, that is virtual. That is virtual reality. Go enjoy nature after Mass, right? When God is in town, he's the only show in town. Family is the domestic church, right? This is the school of love and life and communication. If we don't learn how to converse at the dinner table as kids growing up, we'll never, ever learn that art of conversation. So another thing Pope Francis said is we've lost the art of conversation. And I ask young people that, I say, do you think we've lost the art of conversation? And they say, they look desperate. They say, yes. They go, we don't know how to do it. We don't know how to do it because nobody does it around us. And it's so easy when you feel awkward or uncomfortable, you just go to your phone. And that's acceptable to do that. And so you don't really learn conversation. And then, as we said, married couples' bedrooms. The primordial image of God, male and female, he created them. So I don't suggest these anymore, I tell. No more Sister Nice Guy. You'll thank me later. I can tell you horror stories of people who don't do this and beautiful success stories of those who do. So there's one dad, he when cell phones first came out, he told his kids no devices at the table, and they were all upset. They got used to it, and they have these great family conversations, like, how did your day go? Like, somebody cares how my day went. Or even if, your kids are sullen, teenagers are sullen, they won't talk. But then they have to listen to the others speaking, right? No earbuds in. This is even worse than that in some ways, right? Because here, at least you can hear. This is the total DND, right? Do not disturb me. And I can totally tune out. Put the hoodie up and tune out. So I used to, or like you see people at the airport and they have the big Dr. Dre beats on or whatever. And, it's like, okay, fine. Yeah, we want to listen to a podcast. We were catching up with our class or whatever the heck, listening to music. That's great. But like for 8 hours, like we're sitting there in the gate, go on the plane, off the plane, has not touched those things. So I make it a point now of disturbing those people. I'm a horrible person. You'll get to know that. I go up and I used to be like, oh, I can't ask them for help, or I can't like chat with them. And now I'm like, I pick those people out. Excuse me. And especially if it's a young person, they're not upset that I have disturbed them. They're actually, I was surprised at first, but they're like grateful that somebody called them out of their isolation and wants to interact with them, right? So we have to be disruptors. Just kidding. Okay. So here's some success stories. We've heard some tragedies. There was a Relevant Radio, that's a Catholic radio station, his announcer there, and him and his wife had jobs. They were very busy. The kids had their jobs, extracurricular activities, sports, everything. And it was very difficult to have meals together. So they decided it was a priority for them, though. So some days of the week, that meant 4 p.m. That was when everybody could be home. Other nights of the week, it was 9 p.m. They would have supper, but they did it. And it kept the family so close together. Really knowing how to, again, converse and share their problems and joys. Another dad, the dad who got the kids mad at him for not letting them use devices at the dinner table, at his daughter's wedding rehearsal dinner, she stood up and said, I knew that my brother and I were the most important thing in our parents' lives because they didn't let us bring our phones to the dinner table. And the father stood up and said, it worked! Another little girl, she started going to grandma's house after school because she said, Grandma, you look at me. You look at me. I come home, my brother's playing his video games, my mother's on the phone constantly, my dad's in his office on his computer, and they won't look at me. They'll talk to me a bit, but they won't look at me. And she said, Grandma, I came in, you were on your computer and you shut it off. And you looked at me. And you stood up and we had cookies or whatever we did. So she spent the rest of her school years going home to grandma's house, not her parents' house. So here's the thing. We kind of know some of the ways we don't use media well, and then we laugh about it, and we keep doing it. Right? We acknowledge it. Yeah, I do that. And then we keep doing it. And it's like, no, we got to get serious. Got to get serious. I was addicted to my phone about 4 years ago. Seriously addicted to my phone. Now I never even know where it is. I don't carry it on me. We need that physical separation too. If you're having trouble with phone addiction, try putting it in a room and walking away, or going out to the store without your phone once or twice. People have separation anxiety, panic attacks, right? But it helps because then you realize, what did we do when we didn't have cell phones? We went to the store. I forgot to call so-and-so. Well, call them in an hour. No one's going to die, hopefully. And all this stuff about safety, yes and no. I'm not saying you should have a cell phone on you. I usually have it I keep it in my purse when I leave the house, but I don't keep it on my person. And I leave it in my office or my bedroom. When I'm in the house, in the convent, walking around, I don't want it on me. And people have learned, people will get mad at you. They used to be able to get you within 3 seconds. I know he's going to answer me, right? Now, again, if you have stuff for work, that's one thing, what's expected of you at work. But even there, you can have some boundaries. During my lunch hour, you won't be able to get me. During my prayer time, you won't be able to get me. And people get trained. They learn, oh, yeah, Sister Helena, she'll answer you within 3 hours. But they used to be able to get me whenever they wanted. It's like, sorry, I'm not your monkey. Anyway, okay. On I'm a human being. See, we think we're God with these things, right? We are omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. It's like, no, you're not. You're just one little person who is running yourself ragged trying to answer everybody. And you feel obliged, especially if you're a people pleaser. Oh, God help us. I'm not, but I know people who are, and this is like a menace to the people pleasers, right? Like, I have to be available to everybody at all moments. Okay. So the question is, we only get one life to live. Do you really want to spend it like this? I don't. And the whole time I was addicted, I kept thinking, there's someday I'm not going to be doing this. And that day never came. I used to answer this in chapel. Oh, but they really need me. I was in chapel, I'm being a good digital media nun, right? Right? Like, no, you're being a crazy, wicked, addicted, whatever person. Stop it. Okay, so I'll tell you in a minute. Can we go to 8? Till 8? Okay, because we started late. Yeah. So, okay, lost that thought. That's all right. We're skipping a lot of stuff here, but that's okay. So here's the 2 hallmarks of addiction. Number 1, denial. I'm not addicted. Number 2, don't you dare touch my addiction. Right? Right? We know this. We're all like that. We have little addictions, different addictions, right? So think about this. We have like now kids who have grown up with this. And the way they relate, they're relating to their phone, right? It's a relationship. Those of us who adopted this later, we may love it, we may not use it in the best way possible, but we didn't grow up, we didn't develop with this as part of our lives. So I used to call it the appendage, right? The appendage. Then I started to see it's really a person. It's like another person in the room. I've had scary conversations with young people, and the phone was one of the people in the room. And somebody, this is a 20-something-year-old, the phone is never wrong. I was told the phone is never wrong. What? It's a buddy. Think about this. If little kids are allowed to use this whenever they want, 24/7, internet-enabled, and this buddy never fails them. Their parents might fail them. Their parents aren't always there. Their parents don't always give them what they want. The phone does. The phone connects them with their friends. They can play games. They can buy things if their parents put their credit card on there. This is wish fulfillment. I can be endlessly entertained. I can watch Netflix. I can watch kitty YouTube. This is a god. This is a genie. This is a genie, right? Now young people, and again, not so young, but like in their late teens, 20s, they're sleeping with their phone. It's not on the bedside. They're sleeping with it. And they ask them why. And they said, because it's comforting, right? So, and they don't know any other world. So I want to see the hands again of those who grew up, did most of their growing up years without the internet or computers or devices. So we have a great responsibility. We are the only ones who can contrast and compare, right? We know a world without this. How many people think they had a pretty good growing up? And you had a good life before all this stuff. You had fun. You had a good childhood. Yeah. We know that if the grid went down tomorrow, we'd be fine. Be inconvenient, but we'd be okay. Our young people don't know that. So we have this great responsibility to tell them tales of yore, how the stuff you used to do, and not like we had a better childhood than you did, but that they're going to be okay. They can put their phone down. They can walk away. They can have unplugged times. And I always tell the young people to do it with some friends, again, because if you do it by yourself, you'll be out of the loop, you won't belong, etc. Okay, we're going to skip some stuff. You should always pray to the archangels for media. And again, we need that focused time when we're unitasking and not multitasking. How much of our multitasking is really multi-slacking? Because it's slowing us down anyway, and we're not doing any of those things well, and we need to just stop. So the same Holy Spirit that tells us to say yes also tells us to say no. No, you can't have a piece of me right now. No, this is my family time. No, this is my prayer time. No, this is my I'm walking out in nature time. So with all the new technology, we did not get more time, did we? So this was when I was growing up. We had books, magazines, newspapers. We had records, vinyl records, right? We had cassette players and, well, that came along later, actually. Cassette players. We had television and cinema, and that was about it, right? Radio? What else do we have? Not much. Now this is what we have. And these are just the apps. we could like videotape. We could stream this. They could be watching us in Australia right now. The digital revolution is way bigger than Gutenberg. Gutenberg just like reproduced a bunch of papers or something to read. This is like unprecedented, right? What we can do now. So boy, we've got to take that deep breath and kind of rethink it. And I find that good peer pressure, positive PPP, positive peer pressure, really works well. I was with my family and my niece's boyfriend. We were sitting around the campfire and we were making s'mores and telling jokes and laughing. Even my 14-year-old nephew put his phone away. And it was only my niece's boyfriend, 20-something, on his phone. And at a certain point, we were laughing so loud and having so much fun, he put it away too. And he came and joined us. He's now the fiance. Okay. So, yeah, positive peer pressure can do a lot because only a pleasure trumps another pleasure, right? If we find our utmost pleasure in this, then yeah, it's going to trump everything else. And we're going to want to be with it 24/7. But if we can give our young people experiences of not having their phone with them and they're really having fun and enjoying themselves or even being quiet and enjoying that, then they'll make better choices. They'll be able to walk away. All right, so let me wrap up with the story of my addiction. So I am a dual citizen, as you heard. And when I came back to Canada 4 years, I've been back and forth over the border. When I came back about 4 years ago, it's really 5, but don't tell anyone because then my superiors are like, "Oh, you've been there too long. We need to change you up." That's how it works. That's how it works in the convent, right? You don't want people to get too nested. Okay. So my superior's like, "How long have you been there?" I'm like, "About 3 years." Okay. Because I want to stay. So I came back to Canada only 5 years ago, and y'all were not using media like crazy addicted people like us Americans. And my sisters warned me, they said it's going to be like a time warp. It's going to be about 10 years behind how we use it in the States. And that is not a derogatory comment by any means. And I came to Canada, crazy addicted, bleh, and I work with youth, and they were giving me their landlines 5 years ago. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have smartphones. They were using digital cameras because data was so expensive, remember? Like it was so expensive to have data on your phone or send data, whatever. So they went around with separate digital cameras. People were using fax machines. It was just so different, and people wanted to have meetings. Like, I was like choose the most impersonal form of communication. Don't meet with someone if you can phone them. Don't phone them if you can email them. Don't email them if you can text them. The most impersonal, quick, short form of communication possible. And I come to Canada, Toronto, biggest, busiest city in Canada, and people are like, "Hey, can we meet up?" I'm like, "What? Like, are you kidding me?" Like, "Yeah, let's have coffee." Okay. Let's talk about it on the phone. On the phone? And I got so frustrated. I was texting people's landlines. I couldn't, they didn't know what Dropbox was. I couldn't function. And I said to myself, I remember this. I remember face-to-face conversations, uninterrupted conversations, long attention spans, even the teens. And your teens, can still read and write. Ours can't. They can't. Kids, 13-year-olds were asking for that book by Malala, that book on Malala, for Christmas. I'm like, what? Like our kids they wouldn't ever ask for a book, just for starters, let alone a book on Malala. I was like, wow. So I was like, the day came. That day when I said, I'm not going to be like this anymore, that day's going to come. It came. And I put the phone away. And everybody got mad at me, and they've learned now, and everyone's cool with it. And I'm never going back. As B.B. King sang, the thrill is gone. The thrill is gone. How many people, I ask our young people, they don't know what I'm talking about. It's not even, it's like part of them again. It's like, no, it's not a novelty. It's my life. This is my life, you know? But I'll have older or middle-aged people, whatever, like, yeah, the thrill, for how many people here is the thrill gone? You had some fun, and now you kind of feel like it can be a burden sometimes. I got all these people to answer, right? Okay. So, I think a lot of it has to do with Canadian politeness and good manners as well. But again, I'm seeing this mass erosion. So we have 2 high schools near our convent. And I used to look out the window, and the kids would come out of school laughing, punching each other in the arm, vandalizing property, just like they're supposed to be doing. And I'm kind of kidding, but they didn't have their phones out. They were talking. It was noisy. And little by little, over the past 5 years, they come out of school like this now. So it's what we call the digital creep. All right. So if you digital creep. So if you look at your handout, Silicon Valley says sorry. That will tell you, I don't know if you know this, but I call it the apology tour. So a lot of these high-tech people from Silicon Valley who've made their gazillions are now going around telling the secrets and really apologizing, saying, we hired neuroscientists to addict you to your phones. The design, the feel, the colors, the shapes, like to an nth degree. And now we see, we always knew it might be a problem. And they did their job really well. So let's review. What's the 3 places we don't need screens? Mass meals and master bedrooms. So again, if you don't know how to get a grip, or you want to help somebody get a grip on their media use, tell them to start there. To put the screens away in those 3 places. And this also means not just family meals, but out with friends at a restaurant. Or anytime you're eating, put it away so you can talk. Do we need family meals? Yes, we do. That's not optional. The same Holy Spirit that tells us to say yes tells us to say no. And here's some great advice from a teen, and I have lots of it. Maybe we can use social media better by starting to use it a little less. Quality, not quantity. 1 good Instagram a day or a week or every few days instead of a bajillion. And then ask yourself, in regard to your phones, like, what are your highest priorities in life, and are you honoring them yourself? Are you honoring them as a family? And if you're not, and it has something to do with your media use, which it probably does, see how you can weed that out and say, I'm not doing what I really want to do. I'm not honoring my highest values and priorities in life. David Foster Wallace, who was a great American novelist, said, we all worship. Everybody worships. There are no atheists. We all worship. We worship what we love the most, think about the most, and spend the most time with. That's what or who we worship, right? So let us live humanly, and by human, I don't mean fallen humanity. We can't just say that anymore. Oh, we're fallen. We're fallen people. We're fallen-redeemed. Christ is risen? He is risen indeed. Are you from the Eastern Church? No. Kind of, sort of. Yeah, we Latin rites, like, we never know what to say, right? So the Eastern Church greets each other, Christ is risen, he is risen indeed. Or indeed he is risen. Yeah, so we are really redeemed. We're not just fallen, and it's a very human thing to be addicted to stuff. But our founder couldn't understand how people could be victims of the media. He did not understand that. So we're in charge. This is our media. We need to get a grip on it, not it getting a grip on us. And a lot of people think Marshall Mcluhan was a cheerleader for the media, right? Yay, he loves all the new media. He was sitting on the sidelines. And if you watch from Salt and Light, there's a DVD called The Mcluhan Way or something. Great, about him. He was the big media guru guy. His friends said he actually thought that media was Lucifer. Do you know why? And he didn't even see the internet yet because it's disembodied. It doesn't, you don't need the body to be there. You don't need the whole full person to be there. And that's just the nature of the beast. All media is disembodied. All media is virtual. Now, we think of virtual as being a computer-simulated environment or a video game. No. Virtual means real in appearance and real in effects. Real in appearance, real in effects. So all media is virtual. That's virtual because if you pull the plug, it goes away. And Marshall Mcluhan is not really in this room, is he? No, it's an image of Marshall Mcluhan. So it's just the nature of the beast, but we have to be aware of it and say, I can't live most of my life in a disembodied existence, not fully present body and soul. And this is where theology of the body comes in. Media is not my first love, it's theology of the body. Media is my second love. And there's this huge overlap because wherever the body is put to the side, we have a problem. Wherever the body is dishonored or devalued or treated as raw material, we have a problem. We need to prefer the most personal communication. So I prefer. So somebody asked me from the BC Catholic, because I was out in British Columbia, and the BC Catholic, fine Catholic paper, they said, so what do you prefer? Do you prefer that world where you grew up without all this digital media or the world with digital media? And no one had ever asked me that before, and I thought, what do I really prefer? And I said, I love this new media. I prefer this world, but without the addiction. I love to use this media, but without the addiction. Okay, so can we end with Canada's national bird? Do you know who Canada's national bird is? Yes. Did you read all about that? So Canada actually didn't have a national bird. I wanted to be an ornithologist before God zapped me to be a nun, and that's birds. So I care very deeply about birds. And they were, the candidates were the Canada goose, the loon, snowy owl, chickadee, or Canada jay. And even though the Canada jay didn't get the most votes, it won. Now, it's really just the Royal National Geographic Society that did this poll. So it's unofficial, like there hasn't been an act of parliament or anything. I don't know what it would take to name Canada's, but everyone's accepted this. And the reason they chose the whiskey jack, another name for the Canada jay or gray jay, is my American friends say, hey, any bird that's named whiskey has got to be good. Because it captures the Canadian spirit. Intelligent, friendly, and hardy. Intelligent, friendly, and hardy. Hardy. And what? And noisy. Oh, yeah, they're noisy, yeah. So intelligent, educate yourself about media literacy, what the church teaches about media. Friendly, choose the most personal form of communication. Put those phones away when people are in your face. They have the priority. They have the precedence. And hardy, resist. Resist what I call the Americanization of crazy use of media. So resistance to just falling into using media crazily. And it's hard. It's hard to resist because, like I said, we have the world in our pockets. But it can be done. So thank you very much. God bless.